Think you know all the airlines in Europe? Think again. Let me introduce you to GP Aviation, a Dutch airline founded by a former Air India pilot, owned by a Swiss shell company and registered in Bulgaria. What's even more bizarre, they fly exclusively out of the post-war de facto Republic of Kosovo. And despite being a brand new airline, their fleet is over 33 years old, consisting of just two shabby 737-400s. When I found out about this fever dream of an airline, obviously I had to book a ticket immediately. However, that wasn't even that easy. You can't go directly through their website, which is a complete disaster by the way, filled with lorem ipsum text and random stock photos, but you have to rely on dodgy third-party agents like Pristina Ticket.
Welcome from tropical Switzerland. I have just been to the gym. Yeah, I go to the gym now. I guess you can see that. I'm now going up to get dressed, and then we are going to Pristina.
Today's journey begins in Winterthur, located near Zurich Airport. Winterthur is a former industrial town with a population of about 120,000. It certainly isn't the picturesque or wealthy town you might picture when thinking of Switzerland, and I admit there is not much else to do apart from drinking and substance abuse, but for me, Winterthur is the most beautiful place on earth because it's where I grew up and spent the majority of my life. Here I grew up surrounded by children from places like the Balkans, Turkey, Sri Lanka, Africa, which might explain why I developed an openness to other culture and the curiosity to explore different places. Some of my childhood friends have roots in Kosovo, and it is thanks to a friend of Kosovo origin I became aware of GP Aviation, an airline I otherwise probably would have never known about. From the Detroit of Switzerland, we take a train to the airport, a journey that takes just over 10 minutes and costs about 20 USD for the both of us. One way. In June 2024, Zurich was added to GP Aviation's modest list of destinations, and it's now served daily. Despite Pristina being a relatively small city with only about 200,000 inhabitants, it's one of the more popular destinations from Zurich. 3 different airlines serve the route with 4 daily flights during off-peak season. The primary reason for this demand is likely that about 15% of the Kosovo population lives in Switzerland, having fled here in the late 1990s and early 2000s following the war. This diaspora is well established, and now a second generation in my age group has emerged, many of whom regularly travel back to their second home in Kosovo. GP Aviation has capitalized on this by offering flights from Pristina to Central European destinations with large Kosovar communities, including Zurich, Basel and Stuttgart.
Please pay attention to indications on coaches.
Welcome to Zurich Airport, a place that can be described as a shopping center with a bit of aviation. Unlike most airports worldwide, when you arrive here, you won't land in a traditional departure hall. Instead, you'll find yourself in a massive mall from which you will need to navigate to one of the 3 check-in areas, scattered across different buildings. Despite that, Zurich Airport is truly elite, with clear signage, short wait times and minimal delays. Usually. Zurich Airport is also one of the few places in Switzerland where the shops are open on Sundays. Also, the train station conveniently connects directly to the airport, so unless you want to pay a lot for parking, I'd suggest taking the train instead. To put it in perspective, parking here during an extended holiday would probably cost you more than buying a new car. After a bit of walking, we arrive at Departure Hall 3, where check-in for GP Aviation is managed by AAS, a Swiss ground handling service also responsible for Air Cairo, Air Montenegro, LOT Polish Airlines and Pegasus. As you'd expect from GP Aviation's crappy website, there is no online check-in available. Nevertheless, as a GP Aviation passenger, you are afforded a generous 20 kg luggage allowance, which is a rarity in Europe these days. Had I known what the interior of our ride to Pristina would look like, I might have turned around then and there. The plane seems more suited to a museum, and I honestly have no idea how it passed inspection to obtain its license. Nonetheless, we proceed to security, enjoying the festive Christmas atmosphere along the way. Security is quick and hassle-free, and we soon find ourselves in the Airside Center. Essentially, it's another shopping mall from which you must navigate to your gate. For Schengen flights, the A, B and C gates can be accessed directly without passing any border control. The D and E gates, however, handle flights to non-Schengen destinations, mostly outside of Europe. Although Kosovo is geographically in Europe, it is neither part of the Schengen area nor the EU, so passport control is required. GP Aviation departs from the E-gates located in a satellite terminal connected to the rest of the airport by an underground train. The train, situated just after passport control, runs every 2 minutes and covers the short distance of just over a kilometer to the E-gates. That's approximately 0.7 miles for my cheeseburger-loving friends.
Track 1. Please stand back. The doors are closing. Cette navette vous conduit au porte d'embarquement E. Nous vous remercions de votre visite et vous souhaitons un agréable vol.
Wow, I can't get enough of it. Come again soon. There is so much more to see. For now, I wish you a pleasant flight.
Upon arriving at the remote terminal, you're greeted by an array of sleek wide-body aircraft ready for long-haul flights to the Americas, Asia and Africa. In this setting, our shabby 737-400 bound for Kosovo feels a bit like the drunk guy showing up in a tank top and jogging pants to a black tie cocktail party. To be fair, our trusty little 737-400 isn't the only narrow body heading to the Balkans today. Right next to our gate, an Air Serbia A320 is boarding for Belgrade. The placement feels bold, considering the toxic relationship between Serbia and Kosovo. Let's just say they're not exactly sending each other Christmas cards. Serbia views Kosovo as a breakaway province, while Kosovo is like, hell no, I broke up a few years ago. And now I'm not here to wade too deeply into Balkan politics, which will just offend everyone. But Kosovo isn't a member of the UN, so whether it's officially a country depends on who you ask. If you're from one of those countries in blue on the map, your government recognizes Kosovo as Europe's youngest independent nation, and if you're in the red zones, it's still part of Serbia in your government's eyes. That said, Kosovo has its own government, institutions, and everything else you'd expect from a country. And honestly, after my last Air Serbia video, I think the Serbs hate me already, so I might as well call Kosovo the really is a country.
So boarding should open any minute now. I spotted the plane already. It's a 737-400. Average fleet size of GP Aviation is, I think, 33 years old, which is quite old for a plane. I'm quite excited to fly with this airline. I hope we will get there safe and sound. Right next to our plane there's a flight boarding on Air Serbia over to Belgrade, which yeah. I won't get into politics here, but as you may know, Serbia and Kosovo aren't the best friends, so yeah, there's that.
Over at gate E43, boarding has begun for our flight IV600 from Zurich to Pristina. Most passengers appear to be Swiss Kosovars heading back to visit their homeland, but I also notice a few travelers carrying diplomatic or UNLP passports. This makes sense given the significant presence of UN peacekeeping missions and NATO's Kosovo Force KFOR in Kosovo, which aim to maintain stability in the country. From the outside, our aircraft doesn't exactly scream state of the art, but to be fair, it doesn't look too shabby either. Seeing a 737 without winglets is a refreshing bit of nostalgia. Inside, however, it's a whole different story. This plane is basically a flying museum. Welcome aboard this 34-year-old Boeing 737-400 registered as LSAT GPB. I just realized it's probably the reason why they are called GP Aviation, because the other plane in the fleet carries the registration LZ GPA. Top marketing, top branding, just wow. The cabin features a classic free seating configuration, and while functional, it's certainly not modern. The wear and tear of its age is hard to miss. But yeah, I mean, this aircraft rolled off the production line in the late 1980s and was first delivered in 1990 to Braathens, a now defunct Scandinavian airline. It then spent some years with Malaysia Airlines before returning to Scandinavia to serve SAS Norway and SAS Sweden. About 15 years ago, it was retired from SAS fleet and began its journey through various operations, including Chat Time, Blue Air, Romanian low-cost carrier, and Copenhagen Air Taxi before briefly flying for Air 7. In August 2024, it finally found its way to GP Aviation as the second aircraft in their fleet. By the way, GP Aviation's first aircraft isn't much younger, just 2 years behind, and has an equally adventurous history, switching ownership 18 times. Its previous operators include Macedonian Airways, Firefly Malaysia, Blue Panorama Airlines, and many more. So we've made it through the first challenge, taking off. As we climbed, the lights of Zurich fade behind us and we soar over snow-covered mountains. Not that you can see much in the dark, but still it's a nice thought. Now let's talk about GP Aviation's Inflight Service. As a proper Balkan carrier, it has all the essentials. Attentive flight attendants, cheap cigarettes, and enough booze to make you forget you're on a 34-year-old plane. Meals or drinks aren't included, but you can buy them on board. And well, you'd think a Swiss airline would accept Swiss francs, right? No. Bulgarian leva? Guess again. Credit cards? Don't even try. Only euros are welcome here. Nice. But euros are somehow the currency they use in Kosovo, despite it not being part of the EU. No idea, man. It's just all too complicated for me, to be honest. But speaking of Swiss airlines, GP Aviation officially has no ties to Kosovo, yet everything on board, from their in-flight magazine to the announcements, is in Albanian, the official language of the Kosovo. It's almost if it's a Kosovo airline that just happened to be registered in Bulgaria, probably because it's the easiest and cheapest place to get an EU license to fly to Europe. But hey, who's counting? Let's just say it's all very practical. And by the way, GP Aviation, if you try to sue me, I don't live in Switzerland anymore, so don't even try. Anyway, even though I'm usually not a fan of loo reviews, I obviously have to check out the bathroom on this antique flying machine. You really need to see it to believe it.
Yes, so far it's a quite interesting experience. The plane is incredibly old. I feel like we are in a museum. It's quite turbulent. I feel like we are in another world. It's quite interesting. Crew is friendly, but everything seems a bit improvised somehow.
After my stay on this Victorian age toilet, I head to the galley in the back to record a bit. It actually looks slightly better than the one up front, not by much, but at least it's functional. Since there's no crew around, I take the opportunity to film. Of course, just as I'm in the middle of it, a crew member walks in, makes a scene, gets a purser, yada yada yada. In the end it was all fine, but it just shows that scenes like those can't be real. And I'm sorry if I offended some Sam Chewy fanboys with my last video. I saw his apologizing video and I admit I was wrong in calling him a flight reviewer because obviously he sees himself as much more than that. And to be honest, I don't have anything against him personally. I've never met a guy, for all I know, we might get along great in real life. I just don't enjoy his content. It's not my thing, that's it. But that doesn't mean that I have something against him personally. And as for Josh Cale, he was a big inspiration for me to start my channel. I've watched most of his videos and I still enjoy them. That said, I don't want to put him on a pedestal. Let's face it, he can be a bit of a drama queen at times, but I think his content is still great. So with all of that off my chest, I respect what both of them build, and in that sense, they're both an inspiration. But honestly, just go watch Vicarious Voyager. Trust me, you'll have a good time and the world will keep spinning. Back at my seat, I feel a bit intimidated. Everyone's eyes seem to be on me, but of course I'm here to record, and that's exactly what I plan to do. After all, it's the whole reason I bought this ticket. The problem is, with the cabin crew probably having an eye on me and nothing but darkness outside, there's honestly not much to film right now. Despite probably wondering what on earth I'm up to, our seat neighbor strikes up a conversation with us. Super chill guy, originally from Kosovo, working in Switzerland for a few years now, but you can tell he really misses his home. He's super friendly, giving us loads of tips on what to see and to do in the country. He even offered to help us with our rental car. Honestly, his kindness set the tone for what we'd experienced throughout our trip. People in Kosovo are very warm, helpful and incredibly hospitable. I know I'll definitely want to visit Kosovo again someday, though probably with a different airline next time. But let's skip ahead, since the rest of the flight was pretty uneventful. Let me just show you the landing at Pristina Airport. Hope you enjoy it. And please don't click away now. 7 years of bad luck if you do. Just kidding. Or maybe not. The landing is pretty bumpy, and inside this steel tube, it honestly feels like being shaken around in a flying sardine can. That said, it somehow doesn't feel any less trustworthy than the newer Boeing 737s, considering everything we heard about them recently. Anyway, we touched down safely in Pristina, rolling past a few other questionable looking planes scattered around the tarmac. Eventually we come to stop, seemingly in the middle of nowhere, where we wait for the buses to pick us up. We clear immigration and are immediately greeted by a barrage of ads, clearly aimed at people living in Switzerland. From there, we head straight to our rental car and dive headfirst into the chaos of Pristina traffic. No easing in, just full-on raw dogging it. Would I fly GP Aviation again? Honestly, probably not. That said, it's definitely not as bad as one of the worst airlines I've ever flown, ZRH. Click here to check out the video.